Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, and if you're new here, my name is Brandon. In today's video, we are going to talk all things Disney College Program and more specifically merchandise on the Disney College Program. So I hope that you're all excited. This has been a video that people have asked for and have asked me questions about, and I kind of wanted to share this. I know that it's probably later than people maybe wanted it, and then my last program was, but I'm going on a second program, so I thought this would be a super fun lead up into that. So let's chat about all things merchandise. So for those who don't know, I was a cast member at Walt Disney World last year from May to August on Disney's Cultural Exchange program. I am from Canada and got to go do that program down there, and essentially this program is like the international equivalent of the Disney College Program, where it offers students the chance to go down and work for Disney for the summer, which was so exciting and so fun to be down there from May to August. And I did that program for the first time last year, and we'll be doing that program once again this year for the same dates, May to August. And I will also be back in merchandise once again, which is so exciting and so fun, and I can't wait for that. So I wanted to make this video to share kind of all about my experience last time, what the training looked like, what the logistics were, all of my work locations, and what I actually did for my jobs at all of those locations, because I feel like that I've kind of talked about it, but maybe not in depth like this. Of course, in vlogs, I shared locations that I worked at or things that I did, but maybe I didn't really share specifically each location and what the roles were there. So I thought this would be interesting. People have asked me about it, what locations I worked at, what I loved about the program, what did I learn from the program, all that kind of stuff and more kind of in depth. So I'm so excited to share this video with all of you. I also just want to add this here, that all of the stuff that I'm going to say is mostly specific to my work location, theater animation in Disney's Hollywood Studios, because that's where I worked. So all of the stuff that I'll kind of share for training in those things was my perspective from my location, but I'm also going to touch on some more merchandise specific things about the role and different things about what being that kind of cast member entails. And I thought that'd be fun to share, to see maybe if you're doing a program and you got merchandise and you kind of want to hear from someone who did it, I thought this would be a fun way to chat about it. So I wanted to start off and kind of talk about what merchandise is, because of course it seems pretty just self-explanatory that you're working at a store, which is what it is, but there's also other things that kind of go into being a merchandise cast member, and there are different roles that you could have within merchandise, and maybe different shifts have different tasks or things that you'll be doing, which is kind of cool and unique. I loved working merchandise. I loved all of the guest interaction and being able to see different things in all the stores and talk to people and see how people's days are going and just kind of learn more about people's Disney story, which I think was so fun about merchandise. And I loved doing that and getting to know kind of what people loved about being at Disney World, and if it was their first time or their 50th time or whatever it was in their kind of story, I just thought was so cool. So merchandise does offer that, which is fun. If you do get this as your role, just know that you'll be talking to a lot of people, which was so awesome. So at my location for merchandise, and this is kind of, I think, usually kind of park wide, I'm going to touch on some that maybe weren't specific at my location, but other locations had from when I picked up a shift. But there are a few different roles that you might have when you're working merchandise. And at our location, we had a few different ones. We had just a regular merchandise shift, which is on a register or kind of on the floor engaging with guests. I know other locations have those both kind of split roles, where one shift you're only an engager and you kind of pull that on your thing on your schedule, or other ones you're on a register. I know for me, when I picked up at the Emporium, I actually was only on a register, and my shift specifically said register, which was cool. All of my locations were kind of just, you're doing everything, where you're working register, you're in front of the register and guest engaging and talking to people, and you also had different locations that you would pull on your little paper when you'd go backstage and kind of see what your next assignment is, which I'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, so regular merchandise was kind of our biggest task or role, and it was kind of just being at a register or engaging with all of the guests. So that was kind of lumped into one thing. We then had stocking, which is when you're in the back and you're kind of taking product or merchandise from the back and putting it back on the floor and making everything look super nice and super stocked and full. So this could be replacing different sizes, adding more sizes, filling more plush, or putting different things out that look missing. Of course, as other cast members just on the floor, that's kind of your job as well, to make sure that the store always looks show ready, which I thought was fun, that sometimes you would walk around and see if something's out of place and you could just stick it back where it goes. But there was designated people that were doing stocking, which I got to do a few times, and your role is, like I said, in the back, there's like a computer, you pull all the different stuff that has to come out, and you have like a little kind of like a phone or an iPad sort of thing, and you see what's needed, and you kind of like replenish that as the shift goes on, which is really cool. And then at the end of the day, if you work like an end of day stocking shift, there's like a big list that drops, and then you got to do all that stuff. And I loved that so much. I thought it was so fun and super cool to be a stalker. And then at my location, we also had vending shifts, and that could be day or night vending, as well as a vending runner or stalker kind of together, where you're the one that's like replenishing all of the carts, which was fun. So we had all of the locations in Hollywood Studios mostly that would do merchandise vending, which was really cool. So you could either be on there during the day or during the night, and then there were people that their specific role was to stock those places and come by with their big kind of, it was like this big thing that you had to like push with like a motorized thing and bring it around to refill drinks and different things and like replenish people's carts as needed, which was fun. So I did get to experience all of these roles, which is cool, and I'll touch on them more in depth, but now I'm gonna get into all of my different work locations. So as I said earlier, I worked at Hollywood Studios, which is my favorite park, and I was so happy to get there. There were some locations that I had on my list originally that I really wanted, like the Emporium. Like I went into my program and I was like, I want to work at the Emporium. I hope I get the Emporium. And then I got my role reveal email and I saw Theater District Merchandise, and I was like, I have no idea where this is. And I looked it up and I couldn't really find anything on it. There was videos from like 6 or 7 years ago when it was still split, and it was like Theater District and Animation Courtyard. Now everything's kind of all merged in together, which I'll touch on all of the locations, but I could not have been happier with my location. I was so surprised, and like in the best way, because like I said, going into it, I had no idea what this location was or what it entailed. And then when I found out all of the specific locations and got to meet all of the incredible people, like I knew that it was meant to be that I was there, and I was so thankful that that was my location. So I was able to work like technically 5 different locations, but there's more that encompasses those, where there's actually more different locations kind of throughout the park, but I'll touch on each of them and then we'll kind of break them down a little bit more in detail. The first one was Tatooine Traders, which is the gift shop after Star Tours, and I'll kind of put like a little picture like of me working here at those locations. But Tatooine Traders was awesome. We got to sell lightsabers and Star Wars merch and actually build lightsabers, which was so fun with kids and adults and anybody who wanted to come and build one, which was so fun and so cool. That was like one of my favorite parts of that whole shift, was like talking to people and helping people build a lightsaber. And then of course, when you're kind of like around the floor, you talk with people that love Star Wars and they talk about lightsabers and helmets and try stuff on. And I really loved that location. And I did love the costume, even though that it was pants, they were kind of like these like super flowy pants and you were inside. And I think that working at this location made me kind of love Star Tours more, the attraction, and Star Wars in general. So that was a super fun location. The next one was Toy Story Land, and we worked at the 2 carts outside Camper and Dump Truck, as well as the store after Toy Story Mania, Jesse's Trading Post. So those were kind of the 3 locations in Toy Story Land, and you would rotate throughout those. So you may be outside for a bit and then go inside and then back outside, and kind of like a rotation, because when you do go and pull those slips, it'll tell you where to go, and I'll touch on this kind of later. But it was cool to work all of those locations. So this was yet again another different costume, and it was so fun to wear this one. I loved working in Toy Story Land. I love Toy Story. I love this area of the park. It was super hot back there, but super fun, and a lot of my good moments were there, like engaging with guests with like Slinky Dog or the RC car, and just like those kind of moments were so fun, and I loved being a toy in Andy's backyard. The next one was called Hot Spots, and this was the Frozen sing-along gift shop and the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway gift shop. So those were kind of split like into that one shift. You'd work Hot Spots and you would work at one of those 2 locations. I got to work Hot Spots one time. There was people that I knew that were always scheduled there. I was not, and we'll get into where I was mostly scheduled in a little bit. But Hot Spots was a fun one. I did it one time, and I'm glad that I did. I actually think like traded for that shift, so I could say that I've worked at every location, like in my location. So that was fun. I love Runaway Railway. It's one of my favorite attractions, and it was so cool to work there. I know that my shift actually worked with Katie and Abby, who are my friends from the UK, and we had a great time working there together. And there was one little brief period where all three of us were at the Runaway Railway store together, and that was fun. So you got to work at the Frozen store, like I said, after the show's all let out, people come up and they want to get princess stuff, or you work at that little thing right as you leave Runaway Railway, and there's all of that merch for that ride there. So that was a fun location. Another one of our locations was the vending carts throughout the park that sell merchandise like bubble wands and drinks and different things and glowy stuff at nighttime. So there was daytime vending and nighttime vending. I got to do each of those one time. I think that I did day vending one time and night vending maybe 2 different times. And then I also, like I said, did like the vending stocking shift, which was really fun, and like the runner shift. But I did like this. I know that during the day it's very hot and it's kind of crazy to be out there in the heat, like on a cart staying there, but I loved standing there like in Hollywood Studios in the different areas, swinging my bubble wand around, having a great time. So these were kind of locations all throughout the park. Like right as you walk in the park, we were there. Toy Story Land, like just before Galaxy's Edge and Grand Avenue, we were all over the park, and you kind of had different rotations where you'd start at one and then someone would come like for you to go for your break and then you'd go somewhere else, or you could kind of get rotated around like more often than that. Mine was only the one time I was at one location, I had my break and then went to a different location, but that was a fun thing doing like the different vending options, because I know that some places, other parks, like you're only vending, whereas mine was kind of built in with all my other locations. And I saved the best for last, which was my favorite location, as you can tell by the hat from Magical Castle Company, which I'll leave all their links down below in the description, and you can see up there I worked Fantasmic merchandise, and this was one that I didn't know that I would love so much like going into it. Of course I knew that I liked the show, but I hadn't seen it in so long, and then this whole show just became one of my favorite Disney things, and I loved it so much. So at this location, you could have either been at the top little store called the Dragon Store up at the top of the hill, or one of the 3 carts in the theater down at the bottom where you're kind of engaging and getting everybody ready for the show and pumping them up and chatting with people. And honestly, those were some of my favorite shifts, being down there and getting to talk to people and learn their story. And I literally got to like stand there and just talk to people and make like jokes with people. I got to do the wave. I would pretend that like a song would come on and someone would have to sing karaoke to the song, and I'd pick like random dads mostly throughout the crowd to do it, like, and their kids would get them going, or their wives and stuff. It was like so fun to do that, and I just had such a great time doing that location, and it like made me fall in love with that location, where everybody kind of wants that location as their last shift at theater animation, and it was my last shift, and I'm so thankful because it was just the best. I loved it, like the pre-show music, the whole show, all of the merch. I loved everything about that location. In terms of costumes, we had 3 different costumes, and I kind of showed the pictures here, but I can show them again. We had our basic regular merchandise costume throughout the park, which we wore at Hot Spots and night and day vending and Fantasmic, and I had that huge big hat with that big old brim and my blue shirt and the shorts, and it was perfect, very breathable. I love the hat. It became kind of part of my like personality there, and my like identity was I had to have the hat, and I loved it so much. So that was our main kind of merchandise costume. We also then had Toy Story Land, which was like the blue kind of navy shorts and then the red and like blue navy, I guess, kind of shirt. And you could wear a hat as well, which I did. There was 2 different hats, a baseball cap and a bucket hat. So you could wear those because it is hot outside. And then our last one was, like I said, Tatooine Traders. So like this kind of blue shirt with kind of like, it felt like there was like shoulder pads in there, but there wasn't. And then longer pants. So it was cool to work at 3 different locations that had 3 different costumes, because I got to kind of change it up, and it felt like a new location all the time, but it was like with the same people that I knew, which was really fun. I kind of touched on this earlier with Tatooine Traders, but all of the locations had different merch than like all of the locations that I worked at. So of course, Tatooine Traders had Star Wars stuff, whereas none of the other locations did. It was really cool to get a good mix of stuff, and each kind of place was unique and had like unique things that offered with that merchandise. Like I said, at Tatooine Traders, we could build lightsabers. It was called BYO, Build Your Own Lightsaber, and we were trained on doing that, which I'll touch on training later, but we got to build lightsabers with people from like that little back section, which now people can go and build their own zone, so the cast members are gone from like where it's roped off and different like little tables with like little trays and stuff. That's what it used to be when I worked there last year. Now they've gone back to pre-pandemic where people kind of just go behind, pick their pieces and build it themselves, and there are still cast members there, but they're not actually doing the building for you, which is unique and different. I'm kind of glad that I was there in the era of like building lightsabers. Anybody who's watching this video and is there currently now for this era, or worked there before, or was like someone who worked during but missed the old times, you can let me know which is better. But I loved it so much. I loved building lightsabers and kind of like that whole story element of like these kids or these adults building their very own lightsaber. I thought was so fun. So that was a cool store to be like super Star Wars centric. Of course, in Toy Story Land, we had all of the favorite toys, all of the merch and clothes and pins and toys of Toy Story. And this was a fun location because when I would sell different toys to kids, I remember this on my one training day, Adam, which I'll get to later. He said, if you want, you can write the kids' names on the bottom of the toys' boots or feet. And I would offer that every time, and I got to do it so many times. And it was so fun getting to write kids' names on the bottom of like a Jessie doll or a Buzz doll. It was so awesome and so fun, and the kids just lit up when you offered to open it for them and write it down on the boot. The parents would like look at them and they would go, do you want it open? And the kids would be so excited, and you'd open it up most times and then get to write on the bottom, and they'd have their very own toy to take home. And me being someone who loves Toy Story and loved it as a kid, it was so cool to have that unique perspective of like being a part of that kid's story with Toy Story. I thought was so amazing. Then of course at Hotspots, like I said, Frozen and Runaway Railway, we had all the princess stuff, all the Frozen stuff, and all the Runaway Railway stuff. So that was fun to kind of see those different things. And like I said, each of the locations is so different. Like we went from princesses to attractions to Star Wars to Toy Story, so many different things, and it's awesome to kind of have that experience at this location. And then for the vending carts and the Fantasmic stuff, it was a lot of the same stuff, like glow things, spinner toys, bubble wands that make music or make bubbles and lights and all these things. And then of course like water and drinks and different things. And then when you're up on the Dragon store at Fantasmic, you sell clothing and pins and stuff as well. So we had hats and plush and clothing and pins more specific to Fantasmic or villains, which was cool. So this location had more of everything and like a wide range of different stuff, but then like the main store at Fantasmic having more Fantasmic or villain specific stuff. Now we'll get into training, and this was a topic that people asked me about. I posted this over on Instagram at Sunny Times 2. You can follow us there for more kind of up-to-date stuff of when things are happening. And of course, when I'm in the parks on my program or just on my program in general, we're gonna be posting lots in the stories and lots on Instagram there with all the stuff that I'm getting up to. But people asked some questions over there. I put like a little question box, and one of the questions that was asked in this thing a few times and also just like over the course of my program was, what does the training look like? Was it easy? Was it hard? Was there lots that went into it? Was it a long time or like a shorter training? So I'm gonna kind of get into my training and how mine was for my specific location. And any of the merchandise people out there, you can let me know in the comments if yours is kind of the same, kind of different, what it entailed, but we'll kind of break down the like 7-ish days of training. So my training week technically was May 22nd up until the 31st. So like it was a week and a half of training. There was a couple days there where I had days off on the weekend and stuff, but like it spanned over that time. The actual first week was Monday to Friday, and then I had a few days off, and then it was like a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Wednesday, Thursday, or something like that, where we had the rest of the training. The last day was the park tour, which was called On With The Show, which was interesting how this was at the end of my training when maybe it should have been at like the beginning. I know some people had theirs before the training at different locations. Mine was afterwards, but thankfully my first day we did do a park tour with our trainer, which was fun. But I'll kind of get into each day, what it was, like very briefly, what we kind of covered, and how that it prepared me to be a great, hopefully, merchandise cast member. So our training was broken up into tiers, and for tier 1, I was with Tessa, and she's amazing and so great. If you ever have her, if this is your location and you have her, I just want to get into this. All of the trainers here are amazing, so fantastic. And Tess, I think, was extra special because it was my first ever day that I was being trained, and it was kind of going into this, it's like a bit nerve-wracking and scary, and she was so great and welcomed us in. But we got to all come in a big group. There was so many of us, and so many other trainers were there. That day, I know Hannah, one of my other trainers, later on was also here for this, but there was so many of us, and the first thing that we did was we went to costuming to get our costumes, and that took a while because there was so many people and you got to get into your costumes and see how they fit, but it was so fun. So we had all those and then had to kind of carry those around with us to make sure that we had those for our shifts. We only did our like regular merchandise cast member costume. We didn't get any Toy Story or Tatooine. That was kind of on our own time. We had to go do those if we had those shifts, but we got all of our costumes, and then we went on and broke up into other groups and did a park tour. We talked about our locations that we were going to work at. We kind of like went over like the park layout and where things are, which was helpful for people who maybe hadn't been to the parks before or maybe haven't been in a while and things have changed. But for other people, like, it was nice to kind of see where those locations were, which was helpful even if you have been to the park before. We also did lots of like online stuff. I think it's called D-Learn, and we did lots of those things kind of broken down throughout the whole time that we did training, but this day we did quite a bit of it. And like I said, we went to each of the locations to kind of see where we'd be working, like what attractions are nearby, maybe some different other points that people may ask you, like restaurants or bathrooms, things that are kind of around in that area. But we did do that. And then we had to do a leader engagement, which was basically a leader would come and see how well you can interact with the guests on the floor and see if they need help with anything and chat with them and kind of just see how like involved and engaged you are, which was fun and kind of like intimidating like the first day to be doing that, but it was great. We got through it. So if you're worried about it and you got merch and you're like, oh my gosh, a leader engagement the first time, you got this. It's easy. Be yourself and chat with people, and that's all it is. Then for tier 2 and tier 2.5, we did lots of like register stuff. This was the register days. It was 2 days. My first day with Hannah, my second day with Adam, and on day 2 we also were with Jerry. So it was Hannah and Jerry training us, and I got to be with Sarah this day together. We did register stuff as it kind of went on. My training was in like a bigger group that first day, and then it kind of got smaller and smaller, and I'm pretty sure that we were with like the same people for the last few days, and then at the end, I think for my one last day, I was by myself, but everything else, it was me and Sarah and a few other people. So smaller groups was nice, and it made it easier to kind of like learn and ask lots of questions. So like I said, tier 2 and 2.5 were register stuff, and Hannah, Jerry, and Adam, exceptional, amazing, love them so much, still talk to them to this day, all of my trainers, which is so fun and so exciting because I got to work with them lots as well. So they taught us on register stuff, and it was nice to see like what the register kind of looks like and what it takes. Of course, at first, it's kind of intimidating, but once you get the hang of it, it's super simple. The register does everything for you. Everything's there. We learned how to like use slips to ship stuff, process refunds, do all of the different payment methods like Magic Band and gift cards, and even all the different things that you maybe don't even think about that you would need to learn. They went over every possible thing. And then we hopped on a register and actually got to practice for the whole day and work with actual guests while they were there. So what I liked about the training at Disney was they showed you how to do stuff, and then when you were ready, they said, we're gonna go and do it. And it was kind of like a good mix of, here's how to do everything. Now that you feel good, let's go and do it. And they're there the whole time. It's not like they just like toss you in there on your own and you're doing it. You are doing it, but they're right there for any questions. And it was so great and so helpful. I'm pretty sure that first time we did Tatooine Traders as our first kind of time on a register, which was so fun. I think that I have like a picture here with Elaine and Anna from Magical Castle. They came in and saw me, and I was like in my big hat in Tatooine Traders learning how to work the register. So that was really, really cool. And then the second day for register, we did more register stuff. It went to different locations to be familiar with everything. So with Adam, I think I went to like Hot Spots and Toy Story Land and kind of went around and like learned about all of the different locations and how to like engage with people at all of the locations. So whether it's like picking up a Slinky Dog in Toy Story Land and like having that out to engage, or holding like a lightsaber at Tatooine Traders, all that kind of stuff. But it was really like make sure that you're comfortable on the register, but also how to engage with different guests. Then tier 3 was with Megan and Paige, who if they're watching, I love them so much. I love everybody. Like I literally, I'll touch on this later as well. My location was the best. I loved it so much. But we did more register stuff. We talked about cash and the different cash stuff. We then had like a test on cash and the register and different things, which we had to do online, and they kind of prepared us for that. They asked us questions to see if we could know the answers, obviously to be successful on the test. And then we kind of went over any last minute things that we needed to know for register or cash handling. And then we got right into to learning how to build your own lightsaber, and they kind of talked about it with us. They showed us a couple times, and then it was on us to be in there and build lightsabers with guests, and honestly, loved it so much. I wish that if they still had it, maybe people don't like it doing it, but I loved it and I had a great time, and it was so fun to learn how to do it and see how they did it, because there is no perfect way to do it. Everybody has their own way, and that was also fun to see how each different cast member helped guests build lightsabers. For training tier 4, we learned how to do stalking, and this was with Tanner, love Tanner. Like I said, love everybody. These guys are all just the best. I truly had the best ever trainers, and it was like the instant that you met them, you just connected with them. They made you feel so welcome and so like at home. It was so fun and so nice. But we learned how to like pull up the stuff on that little system, like on the phone, to see what you need, where all the things are, how to read the different like stock rooms to know what each thing means. It was very, very helpful. I think that stalking seemed intimidating at first, and I know when I got my first stocking shift, I kind of was worried, and I was like, this seems like a lot, but I got to stock at Tatooine Traders and at Toy Story Land and like the night vending, and it was really fun to do all of those different things and see which ones were kind of like bigger tasks. Tatooine Traders was the biggest. There was lots to stock. It was a bigger stock room, whereas like the Toy Story one was kind of smaller and easier laid out. So stocking was fun. It was great. Tanner was awesome at it. He did such a great job in helping us, and it was fun to get a couple stocking shifts. And my last tier, tier 5, was with R2, and it was for vending, and he was so great at teaching me how to be the best ever vendor. That was like his thing. He loved it so much. He taught me everything he knew. We got to go around and drive around the big thing that you have all of like the drinks and all your stuff in to stock everything. That was kind of hard to drive that and kind of navigate that through people. He talked about like what kind of roles you have when you're vending and kind of what you have to do, and then he had me hop on one and try it, and it was so fun. And I really do think that the training prepared me for all of the locations. I think that sometimes people think that maybe it's going to be a lot all at one time, but they do break it down day by day, and of course you're not going to like take everything in, but I think that it was really well done. I think that my trainers helped a lot at making this like super easy and tailored to us, and helping us kind of get what we wanted out of it, and making sure that we felt super confident. They of course left lots of time for questions, and making sure that if you weren't sure about something, you could kind of like ask some things or try it again. So training, if anyone's worried about merchandise training or you got my location, just know that it's going to be great. Just make sure that you're again being yourself, and you're like being receptive to learning and asking lots of questions. I think that's my biggest tip, is if you're unsure, ask. Your trainers will help you through that. And again, no question's a bad question. If you're unsure, just ask, because they're super helpful. Another thing that I loved about merchandise, which I'll kind of get into reasons that I loved merchandise, but one of the things that I loved was being able to pin trade, and they kind of brought that back pretty recently. I think that it was like a little bit before I got there, because I remember that I wasn't sure if I would get to pin trade because they didn't fully bring it back, and then they did. I didn't have a lanyard or a pouch, but all of our locations pretty much except for vending or Fantasmic had a pin board, which was cool, and guests would come up, and I loved that because I love pin trading. I got to turn the boards around and talk to each person and see what they're collecting, if they're new to it, all the stuff about pins, which I love. And it was so fun to see what people collect, and if it's their first time, like I said, what they've loved about pin trading so far. It was really, really cool, and I love that aspect about merchandise, that you really do get to kind of have like another element where you're not just only selling stuff, but you do get to talk with lots of people, and you get to pin trade, which is so cool. Another thing that I loved about merchandise was, like I said earlier, the guest engagement. I really do feel like out of all of the like roles that you could get, that merchandise is probably pretty high, if not the highest, on guest engagement and talking with people. I know that it maybe seems like that it's a quick like transaction where they come up super quick, and of course there are moments like that where people are in a hurry, or it's just like a busy line, so you're kind of going through them. But I know like I took the time with each person, and it was so great. Like honestly, hearing about their trip, if it's their first time, like I said, or their 10th or 50th time, or they're like our annual pass holders or DVC, and like what they love about the parks. I just thought that was so cool. And like in other roles, maybe you don't get that as much. And I really did value that, and really did like cherish those moments that I got to talk with people and like learn about it. I also loved when people saw like my name tag being from Canada, and they were from Canada or somewhere near where I lived, or they knew where I lived and I knew where they lived, like the city. It was just so cool to see that and be able to do that like on the times either on a register or when you weren't, and you were kind of more like the guest engaging role. Like I had lots of those at Tatooine where you were just like walking around the floor with like lightsabers and stuff, and you could help people try on helmets or hold the lightsabers, and it was just so cool to take extra time with people. And I really did love that about merchandise, that I think is something that's unique to that role. I also went into merchandise not with really any retail experience. My university that I used to go to, I worked at the gym there, and we did do some cash stuff, but it wasn't on this level where it's like a full-blown retail operation. It was more of like a selling gym membership type of stuff, and it wasn't really like this where like you're selling merch and apparel and toys. So like it was unique and different for me, and I was kind of worried about that, not getting merchandise because I didn't have that experience. But now, knowing what I know now, I was a bit worried about it going into it, that other people who I knew that were doing merch had experience in that, and of course that helps, but I had no issues kind of hopping into it. They made it super easy to understand, and I just loved like being able to do merchandise because it was a new and different job for me than anything that I've ever done before. Another question that I got lots about merchandise was if I picked up shifts or I traded for shifts or if I worked at any other locations, and I did one time. Like I said earlier in the video, I worked at the Emporium one time. I traded a shift with someone who was working Phantasmic with us one time, and I had mentioned that I would love to work at the Emporium, and she worked there, and she said, if you want to trade anytime, I love working Phantasmic, I'll gladly trade. And we worked out a trade, and I got to go work at the Emporium. And I think the reason that I didn't pick up shifts maybe like at all or trade for shifts at all except for that one was I just honestly loved my location, and I felt so at home and so comfortable, and I loved the people. I think it helped that I work with like Sarah and Victoria, who I met, who I hung out with all the time, and then just all of my trainers and coordinators. I just like loved everybody that I worked with, and I built good relationships, and I just like didn't want to leave, and I felt so at home there, and I loved it so much. And I just think that that was like probably the biggest reason that I didn't. This year going into it, I do have goals that I do want to like pick up other locations and try all of the parks and kind of go through that. I think it also helps that I like know how the process is now, how to pick up shifts or trade shifts and how to go get different costumes and stuff. I think at first you're kind of worried about it and you're like, how do I go get the costume? What if they don't have my size? Or all these different things, which I was worried about. And I think that also probably kind of like added to the fact that I didn't pick up or trade shifts. But I loved my time at the Emporium. It was a great shift. It flew by. The people there were so nice. I loved the costume. I'll stick that picture here as well. And I just loved my time at the Emporium. It was one shift. It was a night shift on a register. I heard the fireworks, and it was like the craziest thing ever, because when like the fireworks are going to start, there's nobody in the store. When they're going on, there's nobody in the store. And then when they're done, it's like a flood of people come in, and it's so cool to see that and be a part of that. So I loved picking up there. I don't know my location this time around yet, so stay tuned on our channel for that. Hopefully coming soon. I feel like last time it was like the beginning of April, so hopefully we'll find out pretty soon, and I'll share that with all of you. But I'll definitely probably pick up at the Emporium one time again. And for sure, if I don't get theater animation, you better believe I'm coming back to theater animation. I gotta work Phantasmic and gotta go to Tatooine. I gotta hit up all the spots again. That's my goal, but we'll see what my location is this time. I'll touch on this stuff next and then kind of get into like my favorite stuff about being a Disney cast member. But some people asked about living at Flamingo Crossing and kind of what that entails. And I also wanted to share this, that I do have a bunch of videos from last year, obviously like at Flamingo, my move-in, all those things, and moving out and stuff. I have a whole playlist of my CEP from last year, and I have one started for this year already. So I have my application video, an interview video, that kind of together. I have my acceptance stuff, all of like my packing, what I bought before, all of those kind of tips from last time. I have a whole playlist of that, and I've done that as well for this time. So if you're curious about any of like those like logistics questions, about advice about that, that's all in those videos, and I'll leave those linked in the description and somewhere up here. I forget which side it's on, but I'll leave those linked up there. So if you have any questions about like the background of how to apply, maybe some tips on that, what the rules are, all that stuff will be in those videos. But Flamingo Crossing was a great place to live. People asked if I liked it, like if it was a good place to live. And I think when you're new and you've never been there before, or you've never lived there or never seen it, I do think that maybe it is a bit kind of daunting because it's a whole new place. And for me, this was my first time ever like leaving the country to go live somewhere. This was my first time ever living on a residence, because I've never had to do that. I've lived at home or here like with Heidi, so I've never had to like move and live at like a student housing place. So this was my first time doing that, and I kind of going into it was a bit nervous about it because I didn't know what to expect. Obviously having having roommates that are not your fiance or your family, and it was so great and so seamless. And I lived in a 4x2, which was my own bedroom and a shared bathroom and then like a shared living space. But again, things aren't guaranteed. You could get a 2x2. I could have got a 2x2 last year, but I got a 4x2. I was lucky enough for that, and I think that was super great with being able to have like your own space and being able to kind of like take a FaceTime call, or for me be able to sit down and record videos of like a haul or opening up like packages or different things. It was nice to have that space, but I also think that if you get a great roommate, of course that 2x2 will be great and so seamless. I know like most of my friends had those as well. Sarah and Lucy had a 2x2 and they had amazing roommates. Kat and Honor, they had a great time. I was there often. So there are different like things about that, and I talked about that in like my move-in and application videos last year and this year of like the different options and kind of what I put in for and what I hoped for. But Flamingo was a great place to live. So many like amenities. There was like pools and basketball courts and hot tubs and volleyball courts and like grills and events and so many fun things. And like I said, I have all that stuff documented, showing off my room and Flamingo and different events. But it was nice there. I lived at East Residence, which was where the Apprentice Hall was, which made it super easy. If you had any questions, you could go there and ask those questions. They do have bus transportation to and from work, which is nice. So if you do want to go to the parks, you can head there that way and then kind of walk around and go to the guest entrance. But that made it super nice having that there, so you didn't have to stress or worry about things. You of course could do Uber and those things if you wanted to. And then down the road, there's kind of like Flamingo Crossings Village, which is like a little area with shops and Target and Dunkin' and Starbucks and all those things there. So if you do want to go to those, you can, which was really nice to have all of that close to Flamingo. And I guess to kind of round this out, I hope that I'm not missing anything. And if I am, I apologize. You can leave your questions like down below in the comments or send us a message ever, and hopefully this was helpful. You can let me know that as well. If you're doing merchandise or you got accepted to merchandise, if this was helpful for you, if you have any more questions, or if you did get merchandise and you've done it before and you have anything to add, you can leave them in the comments as well down below. But people ask these kind of questions, which makes me so happy to talk about my favorite moments or memories about my program, or what I loved in general about being a Disney cast member. And this is so hard to put into words about what it's like to be a Disney cast member and what I loved about it. I think that it's just honestly so cool to be on the other side of being a guest and hopefully making people's vacations the most magical they can be, which is like a cliche thing to say, but I really did view it that way. Putting that name tag on was that I want to make every interaction that I have the best possible thing, where they leave that interaction thinking, wow, this is what Disney's all about, and I am at Disney, and this is kind of what I expect from Disney. And it was so cool to be a part of that and be able to like be a part of people's Disney story. I really loved that. And I listed off all of the locations and what they had to offer and what I got to do. But I just think in general, being a cast member is something that is like a unique opportunity that most people don't get to do, especially international. It's much harder to do a program like this, and you have to kind of like put a lot of effort in to get there. It's a whole process to move your life down to a different country, but it is so worth it. And if you're thinking about doing this program or the DCP or any of Disney's programs, go and do it. It's the best thing ever. I loved every second of it. I loved making content and videos to like watch back myself, but for all of you to watch. I loved all of the friends that I made. I literally made connections that I will have for the rest of my life, and people that I now call my best ever friends, and coordinators and trainers that I had, and leaders who I still talk to this day and who I just love so much. So there are so many more things than just being a cast member and working for Disney. You get to make lifelong relationships, and kind of, I think I grew as a better person, and I think that I became a better person and learned more about myself because you're moving to a whole new country and doing this whole crazy thing. But it was so amazing, and I just have so many memories about it. And I'm sure in all the vlogs there are so many memories. I'm just trying to think of some now off the top of my head. I loved doing Guardians as a big work group. We did that one time, and one time me and Sarah got conga. I loved like vlogging in the parks and meeting so many of you, and I just loved like the vlog takeovers of people would take over the vlog, my friends and different things. And I just think that it was so cool and unique to be down there, and it's like honestly so hard to pick a favorite memory. I guess if I would have to just pick one, it's just like meeting the people that I did, because that's something that like left Disney with me, which I think is so cool that there's people, like I said, that I'll be friends with forever and talk to forever. And it's just so cool and so awesome. But I think, again, in terms of, I guess, like a Disney memory, it's that day that I got my name tag at Traditions, and you like are there and you see your name on there with where you're from, and you go take your pictures, and it's like, this is official that I'm a Disney cast member. It's just insane and something that I cannot even put into words. All right, so now is the point in the video where we welcome Heidi. Woo, and we open up a fun package from the absolutely incredible Magical Castle Company, and we are so excited. We cannot wait to open this up. I think maybe know like one or two things in here, but there's hats in here. And I love hats, you love hats. We don't know what the hats are, so we should open this up. But as always, we leave all of their links in the description down below, and you can use our code SUNNY10 to save you 10% off of your order over there. We're wearing their stuff. Heidi loves that shirt. I love that shirt, Heidi. I know, such a good shirt. And then I got my CEP, which I said earlier, and my little sorcerer hat. So we're going for the vibes of my program, obviously, but you should open this up, Heidi. Okay. And let us know what's inside. Okay, what should we start with? What we know? Yeah, the shirts, because we know the shirts. We both got the same shirt. Yeah, we did. Which I'm really excited about this. I know Brandon is too. I don't know which side to wish, but I think it's this way. Yeah. Should we show them at the same time? Yeah, they look good. 3, 2, 1. Dream a fantastic dream. Do-do-do. They're great. Let's take them out. This is from their Happy Place collection. And I think one of your recent things, obviously my recent kind of happy place, has been Fantasmic, because that's one of my work locations. Yeah, and I like recently obviously seeing the updated Fantasmic, also fell in love with it, and Brandon already had a Fantasmic shirt, but I didn't. So I was like, I have to get this. This is so cool. I also love how it's like on a dark, like black color. I know like that might not be the best for like a hot summer day, but I think it's going to be perfect. And to be honest, their shirts are like I find them comfortable. I wear them all the time. They're so good. So breathable, so nice. And they have this little cute guy on the sleeve for their happy place. So all the shirts from like this series have this cute little guy there. I love him. He has like a little Mickey hat on the smiley, and I just love the detail. This is like, they have so many different places in this Happy Place like line or collection, and they all say like the thing and then kind of like a fun tagline or something from this. I do already have a Fantasmic shirt like from them. And you wear it like all the time. Yes, that's like a maroon kind of almost red, but this one, I feel like this will be fun to match at like a Disneyland, me and you, on our first time watching it there. I think that would be cool because we've never seen the Fantasmic at Disneyland, and we're going there in August. This is a perfect Fantasmic shirt, and there's not really much Fantasmic merch out there. Yeah. So definitely check them out for Fantasmic stuff and like super underrated things. But should we get into the hats? Yeah, why don't we get into the hats? I'm excited. I love a hat. They got lots of good hats. Okay, I shouldn't peek. You're already peeking? I was peeking a little. We have no clue what they are. I see the color of them. Should I just take them out and we look at both of them at the same time? Sure, because then we can kind of gauge maybe they're the same, maybe they're different. 3, 2. Cute! Cool. That color's cool. I know. I have that hat, but on a darker color. I feel like this is, I'll take this hat. Yeah, that's cool. And we can match. Okay, let's show this one first. Yeah, go for it. This is an orange bird hat. It's on like a peachy color. I think it's so cute, and the hat's like the distressed one. And we love Orange Bird. I think he's just like so adorable. And like Brandon said, he already has this hat on like the darker gray. So now I can be matching in my little pinkish hat. Which I feel like I'll just put it on. What a good MK hat. Yeah, seriously. Very cute. Aww. I love it. And mine is an Animal Kingdom hat, I guess, right? Yeah. Wilderness Explorers. That's sick. I love the color. I love the color too. And I love how like the tree on the little like little patch like connects with like the color of the hat. It's perfect. I love like getting Animal Kingdom stuff from them because they do it so well, and I feel like I don't have lots of Animal Kingdom things, and I love how they've hooked me up with all of the great stuff that I can wear there, and this is no different. I love it so much. So thank you, ladies, so much. We love you guys, and use code SUNNY10, like I said, on their shop. It's linked in the description down below because they got the most amazing Disney stuff over there. So I hope that that was a fun video, I guess more informative, but I did want to share lots about my program and kind of what my locations were and everything that I loved about merchandise and about my last Disney Cultural Exchange program as a lead up to this one, because it's in roughly 2 months, which is crazy. So if you're not subscribed and you want to be subscribed to follow along on this round 2 adventure, be sure to subscribe. because the content's going to come very quickly. I'm sure that the next thing is my location reveal, which I can't wait to share. I hope that you're all excited about that one, but I just can't wait to be doing this program a second time because it's just going to be so amazing. I also wanted to add that we are going live tonight when you're watching this, Friday, May 15th, and we are going to be ranking or putting in a bracket a bunch of Disney guys. Princes, heroes, a couple villains sprinkled in there, all of those Disney guys that we all know and love. It's gonna be so fun. We love doing these rankings and brackets. So come and join us tonight, March 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on our YouTube channel to talk all things Disney guys. I also wanted to say that, of course, this shirt that I'm wearing, which I didn't say at the beginning, is from Magical Castle Company. It's a CEP shirt for 2023. They have them for DCP as well. So you can use our code SUNNY10 to save you 10% off of anything in their shop, hats, shirts, all of the amazing, incredible things. Go check them out for all that fun stuff. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you're new, consider subscribing to our channel for more Disney Cultural Exchange Program content and Disney content in general, just like this. Be sure to ring that bell so you never miss any new videos from us. Follow us on Instagram at SunnyTimes2, and stay tuned for more of this content to come very soon. And remember, it's always sunny.